So as we think about this in context of young people and the innocent, how do we apply this verse? This word offend comes from the Greek word, as we said before, skandalizo. And if you look at that word, to me, I immediately thought of scandal and scandalous. And I looked into it, and yes, that's where we get those words from. You know, if we take the most innocent in our society and we begin to offend them in the ways that we'll discuss in a moment, it truly is a scandal. And so I want to talk about 3 ways that children are offended today. This is not an exhaustive list, but if we could talk about these 3 for a moment. These are not easy things to talk about, but I think they are necessary in today's age. In the U.S., there's about 1 million legal abortions a year. That number does not include abortions that are illegal. I don't know how we would know that number, but even if we just take 1 million a year, that is 2,500, more so, 2,500 a day. 2,500 children every day are never born because their lives are snuffed out. This barbaric practice used to be scandalous. If somebody had an abortion, they wouldn't brag about it, but that's not the case today. People go through streets and they brag about the abortions that they've had. And so I think about this verse. The people who are committing that and who are gladly doing that, if they don't repent, if they do not obey the gospel, their fate is going to be so bad. It would be better if their life had ended with a rock around their neck and them being pushed into the sea to be drowned and forgotten. Now, that illustration that Jesus is using is something that is lighter than what will happen for eternity. That is his point. Their fate awaiting them, their eternal destination, is worse than any ignominious death that man could devise here on earth. So we hope that those people would repent and obey the gospel and turn from those wicked practices. Also, we have those who are kidnappers and they traffic people. There's millions of people in the world today that are in some form of slavery. It is estimated that there's 12 million children alone in the world who are under some form of slavery. Now, the shameful part of that is this is increasing in our country today. There's many people who are trafficked. They're trafficked to be workers. They're trafficked in the sex trade. And there's children that are trafficked for such things as pedophilia. And there are kids that are trafficked out of our country. How many kids go missing every year? And if you are a parent of young children, this is probably one of your biggest fears. And so I think of this verse when I think of the people who would do such horrible things to children. If they don't repent, if they don't obey the gospel and have those sins washed away, their fate is going to be worse than the worst death that we could think of and imagine and enforce today. Also, there are those who take sexual liberties with children. And in some states, there's a movement to weaken the laws around this area. What a shame. Again, I think of this verse of the people offending these little innocent ones. I know this is an uncomfortable subject, but did you know? I believe the Apostle Paul talked about this in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 3 through 6. For this is the will of God, even your sanctification, that you should abstain from fornication. So here's the context. He's talking about sins under the general word of fornication. Then he says that every one of you should know how to possess his vessel in sanctification and honor. We ought to know how to keep our bodies in an honorable way. He continues in verse 5, not in the lusts of concupiscence, even as the Gentiles which know not God. He's still talking about lusts that are included in fornication. Verse 6, that no man go beyond and defraud his brother in any manner. So in this context of sexual sins, don't go beyond what you ought to do and defraud your brother. To defraud means to take advantage of. You think about things such as sexual assault and rape, molestation. These things are taking advantage of people, and we ought not to do it. Look how he concludes this verse. Because that the Lord is the avenger of all such, as we also have forewarned you and testified. This is something that Paul has taught to them about in the past, and he's warning them again. The Lord is the avenger against those who do such things. If a person does not repent of these sins and become obedient to God, they will be lost, and the Lord will take vengeance on them. Also, as we consider this passage again, take heed that you despise not one of these little ones. We should not treat them with contempt, disdain, or think little of people who come to us and say, hey, I've been abused. We should seek to help them.